Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. I did a story yesterday about how badly the rise in rents are going in Scotland. And we all know it is a direct result of basically 4 or 5 years of misrule by the SNP. They brought in rent controls. They said you couldn't evict tenants. You weren't allowed to put in any rent rises until recently. Last year it went up. You could do a 3% rise, even though inflation was running at 10%. And rather than letting rents rise organically, small amounts, piecemeal, piece, they had this ban. So of course, now that this is all run out and timed out, all new tenancies are going up through the roof. Now, they're not going up massively to unaffordable levels. They're going up to where they would have been had the rents risen organically over the last few years. Unfortunately, that jump is for many people quite unachievable in a single bound. And there's a lot of people that are going to be unable to pay the rent. And of course, with the constant attacks on landlords, a lot of them, 20,000 properties have come out of the market. This has also exacerbated the problem and pushed rents even higher. All of it, every single bit of it, green SNP policy. And yet the imp sits there and has the sheer audacity to blame Westminster. Let's have a look. Now, as we know, Harvie is the minister responsible for rents. And when he pushed these rent controls in and said the no blame evictions, and then during COVID, no evictions whatsoever, it basically gave a free-for-all for anyone who was renting to just say, well, that's grand, I'm just not paying me rent for the next however long. And when eventually they do throw me out, I've got all this money saved by not paying rent. I can maybe, who knows, even go and get a deposit. Seems weird, doesn't it? But that's what happened. And of course, a lot of landlords gave up, sold the properties, got out of the game. When there is a scarcity, the prices go up. And also, after years of not being allowed to raise those prices in line with inflation, once the reins have been released and they're free to go, those rents will rise. And they've all risen. Scotland has the highest rate of increase in rents anywhere, but it's only bringing it back up to where the market should be. This is all, without doubt, Harvie's fault. We know this. He was told. He was told by landlords. He was told by trade bodies. He was told by economists. And he was told by his own officials. But Harvie knows best. And now he's sitting there and he's seeing the very worst result possible. Rental properties in Scotland are so rare, they're so expensive because the market has shrunk because of policies. The rents have gone up because of policies. There are a massive homeless problem, and it isn't just in Edinburgh or Glasgow, but it's all over the entire country. There are various councils up and down the whole land admitting that they need absolute emergency help because of homelessness issues. And it's all down to the imp. A man who really wanted a rent freeze and the no rent eviction, or the no evictions and that, because he rents a flat. And he's thinking, I can get a few years with no rent rise. I'll be all right. I'll still get my big pay rise out of Holyrood, but I won't have to pay any more to the landlord. He absolutely loathes landlords, and yet he funds one. If you're so anti-landlord, why don't you buy a house? You've got to ask the question. Anyway, Patrick Harvie accused of shameless spin as he abdicates responsibility for Glasgow's huge rent increase. Not my fault, Gov, is his official answer, but in actual fact is his fault. Every single penny of rise, every single problem is entirely the little deviant imp's problem. He caused it, he needs to sort it, or he needs to resign. The Scottish Greens Minister rejected suggestions that his rent freeze could be blamed for sky-high rental prices in Glasgow because he lives in denial. He doesn't understand how economics works. Don't forget, this is a man who is incredibly uneducated. Never qualified. He's not qualified in any way. He insists Tory austerity was to blame. How is Tory austerity to blame for rents increasing? If there was lots and lots of rental properties, rents would fall because landlords would be desperate to get someone in. But having got rid of so many rental properties, it means that there's so many tenants looking for rental properties. It's called market forces. This has got nothing to do with austerity. This is economics 101. Had you studied economics? He got a C in woodwork. I think that's about as much as he's got. He's certainly illiterate, he's certainly innumerate, and he hasn't got the first clue about economics, has he? Patrick Harvie has been accused of shameless spin after he blamed the Tory government for the increase in rent prices in Glasgow. The cost of rent properties has skyrocketed in recent years, partially thanks, almost entirely thanks, to the SNP Greens rent freeze. The policy has forced hundreds of landlords out of the sector and has caused the price of new properties on the market to be hiked up, as there is no option for an in-contract increase, which means that once someone leaves, they have to go, right, we are not going to get a rent increase for years, so let's put it up, and that's how much the new contract is. And it's very, very expensive, but over time it will come down with pay rises and things, but you've got to put that hike because you're not allowed to increase it during the length of the contract. Genius move, of course, by Harvie, the man who hasn't got a clue. It has also caused some developers to axe plans to build new homes. There are people, developers, who build for rental companies or rental purposes. They're not going to do it now. What's the point? They're not going to get their investment back. They plan on going, right, we'll invest these, we'll build these, and we'll allow for a 5%, say, 5% per annum pay rent increase. Boom, 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 boom. We'll get our return on investment after 7 years, say, after that, profit. But if their return on investment isn't 7 years but is 14 years, they're better off sticking that in the bank. And do. They're not going to build any houses. Why would you bother? This is the problem with Harvie. Doesn't understand the first thing about the construction industry either. In fact, I don't think there's anything the man knows anything about other than, Anyway, the rent freeze was spearheaded by the Scottish Greens and comes to an end on 31st of March, with new complicated process being brought in, which includes an independent rental adjudication if a landlord wants to put the price up by more than 3%. Glasgow has seen the biggest rent increase in the entire country, with the average cost for a two-bedroom property soaring by 22.5% in the year up to September. Well, that's because for 4 or 5 years or so, there's been no rent increases. They've banned them. And at that point, you've had 7%, 8%, 10% for 1 year increase in inflation. So, in fact, the 22.3% looks big, but it's actually lower than what it would be under inflation. It's a below inflation rise. It looks bad, but it isn't. But if they'd been allowed to put it up a little bit each year, the tenants would have got used to it, could have, supplemented, could have got there, wouldn't be massive jumps. Now they are. Anyway, the average rent for such a two-bedroom property is now just over £1,000 a month, up from £850 in 2022. So, yeah, £200 a month increase. It's but it's not a surprise. It's really not a surprise. It was always going to happen. People told him this is what happens. Whenever there is rent controls, the rental system breaks. It always does. Without fail, there has never been a successful rental property or rent control system. Ireland tried it a few years ago. It failed. Ireland abandoned it. Ireland tried it again, this time with different rules. Said, we'll get it right this time. It lasted about 6 months. And then it was cancelled again. They've brought it in for a third time. And they say, this time it will work, but you can guarantee it won't. Anyway, the rent freeze came into effect in April 2022, meaning Harvie presided over a huge increase in just a year. But he abdicated blame in an article for the Glasgow Times. He wrote, in 2010, the average cost of renting a two-bedroom private flat in our city was $564, which was already one of the most expensive in Scotland. You're in the biggest city in Scotland. Of course it's expensive, you numbnuts. He said it's now $1,050, an 86% increase through a period of Tory austerity when household... Why are you blaming the Tories? This is landlord issues. And the landlords are putting it up because inflation. When you're getting 10% inflation, when you're getting 8% inflation, 7% inflation, each year, boom, 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 of course it's going to go up. Do you not understand how inflation works? Imagine being a government minister and not understanding how inflation works, or the economy, or supply and demand, or how to tie your own shoelaces. Man is a wit, isn't he? Anyway, he went on to praise his rent freeze, and of course he will, and claimed there were many people all across our city who have saved hundreds of pounds as a result. Then, not saving now, and who have been able to keep a stable and secure roof over their heads throughout the pandemic and a period of high inflation and bills. Now, what's going to happen when these landlords go, do you know what, I can't make money on this property, but if I sell it and invest the money in the stock market, I'm going to make a lot more money now. They'll sell. And there are for many people no option but to rent. They can't ever buy. They won't have the money to buy, can't get a deposit to buy, their credit history is bad, whatever. There's some that choose to rent because they move a lot, or they're students, or whatever. But there won't be any shit. There won't be any properties because he wants all the rental properties in Scotland gone. Apparently, data from HomeLet revealed that the average rental value of the new tenancy in Scotland has risen by 14.4% in the year to August, the highest leap of any region in the UK. And the average rent is just under £1,000, which is £124 more than the year ago. In Greater London, where the most expensive flats are rented, there was a 13% rise, while annual bills went up just 5.8% in Northern Ireland and 8.2% in Wales. Yeah, I mean, I put this all in Harvie's lap. This is all his fault. When you see that the rises all across the rest of the UK are half or even a third in some cases of what it is in areas of Scotland, how can it be the UK? How can it be the Tories? If it was austerity, it'd be the same everywhere. But it isn't, and it's only Scotland. Therefore, it isn't the Tories, it is Harvie. What a knob he is. Coming up. It's no surprise, of course, that he's denying responsibility. He lives in a land of denial, doesn't he? I mean, he is so unbelieving his own failures. But everyone told him it would fail. But no, it worked. It will work, honestly. I know it's failed everywhere else, but it will work because I'm Harvie. Whack, whack, oops, failed. Like so much that he does, like so much the Greens do, like so much the SNP do. Every single policy fails. This is a bad fail because it's people's livelihoods, it's their lives, it's their homes. And it's going to fail always. You drive out the market, you create a shortage, prices go up, and then you hold back, artificially retard the rent rises for years. When they are freed, of course they're going to go up. Any idiot could tell you. Unfortunately, they aren't even idiots, are they, these people? They're too stupid to be idiots. Thanks very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video, and I'll speak to you later. Bye.